Hello. I hope you guys are doing well today. Grandma has another story to read to you. This one is from, the Children's Book of Heroes. And this is a story about Helen Keller. You may have heard of Helen Keller. She was a girl that she was not like most little girls when she was little, because she could not see. She couldn't see the flowers or anything else. She couldn't hear. She couldn't hear the birds singing or people speaking to her. And so, she could follow her mother around and hold on to her skirt, but she couldn't say, "I love you." And when she sat on her daddy's lap, she wasn't able to say, "Would you read me a story?" Because she couldn't see and she couldn't hear. And one afternoon, when she was almost 7 years old, she stood on her porch. She could feel the sun on her face, but she didn't know that it came from the sun. Suddenly, Helen felt two arms wrap around her and hold her close. She knew at once it was not her mother or father. At first, she kicked and scratched and hit, trying to drive the stranger away. But then she began to wonder who it might be. She reached out and felt the stranger's face, and then her dress, and then the big suitcase she carried. How was Helen to understand that this young woman was Annie Sullivan, who had come to live with Helen and be her teacher? Annie had brought a present. She gave Helen a doll. Then she put her fingers against Helen's hand and made signs that Helen could feel. Annie slowly spelled D-O-L-L with her fingers. Helen felt Annie's fingers moving, but she didn't know what the woman was trying to tell her. She did not understand that each of these finger signs was a letter and that the letters spelled doll. She pushed Annie away. You see that? That would be really hard to not be able to see or hear and to try and function in the world. The new teacher did not give up. She gave Helen a piece of cake and spelled the word C-A-K-E against her hand. Helen made the signs with her own fingers, but she didn't know what they meant. Over the next days and weeks, Annie put many different things into Helen's hands and spelled out words. She tried to teach her words like pin and hat and cup. To Helen, it all seemed very odd. She grew tired of this strange woman always taking her hand, and sometimes she grew angry and began striking out at the darkness around her. She screamed and growled and broke plates and lamps. Sometimes Annie wondered if she would ever be able to help little Helen break out of her lonely world of darkness and silence. But she promised herself that she would not give up. Then, one morning, Helen and Annie were walking outside when they passed an old well. Annie took Helen's hand and held it under the spout while she pumped. As the cold water rushed forth, Annie spelled W-A-T-E-R. Do you know what that spells? Water. Helen stood still. In one hand, she could feel cool, gushing water. In the other hand, she felt Annie's fingers making the signs over and over again. She understood that water meant the wonderful, cool something that was flowing over her hand. She understood at last what Annie had been trying to show her for days and weeks. She saw now that everything had a name and that she could use her fingers to spell out each name. Helen ran laughing and crying back to the house, pulling Annie along with her. She touched everything she could lay her hands on, asking for their names: chair, table, door, mother, father, baby, and so many more wonderful words to learn. But none were more wonderful than the word Helen learned when she asked Annie what her name was, and Annie spelled teacher. You see that? Finally, when she was at the well pumping the water, it finally clicked. that what her teacher was doing was trying to spell what different things meant. Helen Keller never stopped learning. She learned to read with her fingers and how to write, and even how to speak. She went to school and to college, and Annie went with her to help her learn. Helen and Annie became friends for life. Helen Keller grew up to be a great woman. She devoted her life to helping people who could not see or hear. She worked hard and wrote books and traveled across the seas. Everywhere she went, she brought people courage and hope. Presidents and kings greeted her. The whole world grew to love her. A childhood that had begun in darkness and loneliness turned into a life full of much light and joy. And the most important day in my life, Helen said, was the day my teacher came to me. And sometimes some of our hardest challenges can turn out to be great blessings. It was a real challenge for Helen not to be able to see or hear. But with her kind and loving teacher, she was able to learn. And then she was able to help other children who also had trouble that couldn't see or hear. So I hope that we can all rise to whatever challenges that we might face in our lives. And remember, Grandma loves you.